Our top story, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky has denied that his country carried out an alleged drone attack on the Kremlin, which Russia says was an attempt on its President Vladimir Putin's life.
You know, I can repeat this message, and I think it will at least be understandable for everybody. We don't attack Putin or Moscow. We fight on our territory. We are defending our villages and cities. We don't have, enough weapon for this. That's why we don't use it anywhere. For us, that is the deficit. We can't spend it. And we didn't attack Putin. We leave it to tribunal.
Russia has opened a terrorism probe after Moscow said that it had shot down 2 drones at Putin's Kremlin residence in what it called a Ukrainian terrorist assassination attempt. The Kremlin has further asserted on how it has the right to retaliate. And in the latest, Moscow has launched an attack on Ukraine's southern Kherson region. According to Kiev, at least 21 people have been killed and 48 wounded. But at this point, the bigger question that arises here is, could Ukraine actually be responsible? Let's try and decode this. Ukraine has the capability to carry out long-range strikes inside Russia. Experts say that Ukraine could use its own UJ-22 drone or Chinese-made Mugen 5 drones for the attack. Reports also suggest that Ukraine has developed a long-range drone capability that could reach Moscow. Now, Russia's ex-president Dmitry Medvedev also called for physical elimination of Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky after Moscow accused Kiev of a drone attack on the Kremlin. Meanwhile, the leader of Russia's Wagner Group, Yevgeny Prigozhin, has said that he believed a promised counteroffensive by the Ukrainian troops had already begun. In an audio message published by his press service, Prigozhin said that the active phase of the counteroffensive would begin in the coming days. Meanwhile, the White House has said that it cannot confirm the authenticity of reports by Russia that it foiled an overnight attack by the Ukrainian drones on the Kremlin. Speaking at the White House, Press Secretary said that the administration is aware of the reports but are unable to confirm the authenticity of them at this time.
So we are aware of the reports, but are unable to confirm the authenticity of them at this time. And so I don't want to get into speculation from here about what happened, but we are indeed aware of the reports.
Now, the White House has announced that it will send new shipment of heavy artillery and rocket ammunition to Ukraine ahead of its planned counter-offensive.
We will have an announcement today that from the Biden-Harris administration, a new package of security assistance to help Ukraine continue to defend itself on the battlefield and protect its people against Russian aggression.
Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky has denied that his country carried out an alleged drone attack on the Kremlin, which Russia says was an attempt on its President Vladimir Putin's life. Russia has opened a terrorism probe after Moscow said that it shot down 2 drones at Putin's Kremlin residence in what it called a Ukrainian terrorist assassination attempt. Now, for more on this, we have with us Lieutenant Colonel Glenn Grant, former advisor to Defense Minister of Ukraine and fellow at Baltic Security Foundation. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us.
Thank you.
So my first question to you, how do you assess these allegations?
Well, I mean, the whole thing is nonsense. I mean, this is clearly a Russian publicity stunt. Because if you actually look at the supposed explosion, it's not an explosion at all. It's more like a firework. There's no explosive power in that at all, because you would have seen something really big happen if an explosion went off. Even a small amount of explosive makes a bigger thing than that. That was just a firework. So why? Well, Putin is obviously in trouble, and he needs something for his domestic audience. And this is what this was.
Right, absolutely. So in fact, I was just going to come to this. Would you say that this was a false flag operation? Of course, now, if you heard the statement, Russia said that it has the right to retaliate. What can we expect on that front? Do you see this as a pretext for another offensive by Russia, perhaps?
No, not at all. I mean, Russia is using this is trying all part of the same package of trying to actually to get Ukraine to come to the negotiating table by threatening things. This is for the internal audience and the American audience. It's not going to work. They're not going to do that. What Russia is doing are like things like the attacks on Kherson we saw yesterday.
Right. So what you're saying is this is a way to maybe have the Russian audience and the United States audience in Russia's favor. Is this what you're trying to say?
Yeah, it's. I mean, he needs it for the Russian audience to keep the mobilization and to keep the war going. The war is going badly. Let's be honest, for him, and his troops are losing all over the place. He's losing hundreds and hundreds of soldiers, and they're running out of normal artillery ammunition. So he's got problems on the front line, and he knows it. He needs something to energize people to keep in Russia to keep the war going.
All right. That being said, how do you see the situation unfolding?
Well, he seems to have shifted. The Russian troops are shifting more to defense across the whole of the front line. There are still one or two major attack areas like Bakhmut and Avdiivka where he's continuing pressure, primarily areas where the Wagner group is. But I see more of these terrorist attacks from Russia, attacking supermarkets, trains, schools and things like this, because life behind the front line has been going back to normal. So Putin will be intent on making sure that terror strikes into Ukraine as much as possible. But the aim is the same, to bring Ukraine to the negotiating table so that Russia can keep what it's got. But that isn't going to happen.
All right, Lieutenant Colonel Glenn Grant, thank you so much for joining us on this broadcast with your insights on this.
Thank you.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.